Oh fuck, that was my chair. Okay, hello and welcome to my review of the brand new hit show, The Derry Girls.
Will the following pupils please report to Sister Michael's office? Erin Quinn, Claire Devlin, Michelle Mallon, Orla McCool, and the wee English fella.
Will we get expelled? Nobody ever actually gets expelled. Wanda Gallagher hasn't even been expelled and she's an ARA. Say that's probably why.
Let's get into it. You might be wondering about this location. Where is this? This is actually in my childhood bedroom, and this room has seen a lot of action. A lot of nasty stuff has gone down in this room. Sadly, none of it involving girls. But let's talk about my favorite new show that just hit Netflix, The Derry Girls. Sorry. Just reading the script. So the show is about a group of 4 15 to 16-year-old girls in the early 90s living in Northern Ireland in a town called Derry. And also with them they have this guy that's called James, who's from England, and that's his shtick. He's from England, but he's a really funny character. I'm going to get into the comedy of this show in just a second. I'm just going to go over some of the more technical aspects. The show is a sitcom, and it's set in the early 90s, and it's set during a conflict that took place in Northern Ireland. I don't know how much you know about this conflict. I will admit that I didn't know a whole lot about this conflict going into the series. I will just say that if you're wanting to learn about the civil war that was going on in the country at that moment, this show won't educate you much on that. So if you're looking for that in a kind of funny way, I don't think you're going to learn a lot of new stuff. But since it's a sitcom, a lot of the situations that arises from this civil war is kind of portrayed in a funny way, besides the ending, which I won't get into because of spoilers, but the ending does get a bit more depressing than the rest of the show. So whether or not you think it's appropriate to set a sitcom like this in this type of environment with this, civil war and everything going on, because it was quite a terrible time in Northern Ireland, that's completely up to you. But the reason why the sitcom is set in a place like Derry during this time is actually because it's very loosely, I believe, based on the life and upbringing of Lisa McGee, who is a creator and writer for the show. Just to kind of quickly also go over, the director of all the episode is Michael Lennox, who I hadn't heard about before, but I definitely want to see more of because the directing of the show is really good. This show is set in high school. They're attending an all-girls Catholic school in Northern Ireland, in Derry, where they're from. But still, despite this, it's not at all a serious drama or a typical high school drama that you might get from, I believe, a Teenager's Diary type of drama. I haven't seen that show. I'm just assuming that it's a very heavy drama show. I would very much compare this show to a show kind of like The In-Betweeners, but just the style of it is very different. The In-Betweeners has a very bleak and grey and natural lighting kind of look to it, which does make it look very realistic, and I absolutely love that about the show. Whether or not it was an excuse to cut, I don't know if it was a budgetary reason or if it was just a creative decision to make the show look kind of grey, and also to make the show very naturally lighted and just have very neutral colors in it. But this show does it a complete opposite. Instead of being very grey and very instead of being very grey, it does actually take and make it very colorful. And in my opinion, this works very well for the show. Because even though, as I said earlier, this show is set during a civil war in the massive conflict that is still very recent and still has effect on Northern Ireland as we speak of today, this show is very light in a lot of ways. Because one thing that I've forgotten to mention so far about the show is that the adults are also included in the show. We see the parents, especially to Erin, one of the main protagonists of the show. Her parents and grandparents and also her aunt are very prominently featured in this show. Which also I think makes it a lot easier for maybe adults to get into the show, because they have characters they can put themselves into and relate to. So I think that was actually a really smart thing to include also the adults' perspective. And also all the adult actors are so brilliant and so amazing. So also go for all the teenage girls. I think all the performances in the show are really good. There might be a couple exceptions, but nothing that I can remember from the top of my head. Just from a filmmaking aspect as well, the show is shot in a really nice artistic way. There are some shots in the show which I'm just kind of went like, this is a really cool looking shot. It also comes from the fact that I hadn't really seen this setting at all that much. I wouldn't say that Northern Ireland is one of those places where they make the most amount of films, and it was really cool to see a show set in this place during conflict that I didn't know a lot about. It gives you a nice insight, and also it makes it feel very fresh, It's not just some high schooler who gets bullied by... It's not just a high school show where the jocks are kind of cool and the nerds are not as cool, because you see that a million times. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because it definitely does, and it's important to make shows so those types of people who grew up in schools like that can relate with as well. It's just that we've seen those done so much that it's nice to see a fresh looking take on a high school story. What the show does so brilliantly is that the show is kind of showing how a teenager might have lived during that time. Because believe it or not, even with civil wars going on, with conflicts going on, people have to still live their lives. They have to go to work and they have to go to school, and that's still a huge part of their life. When it comes to storytelling, one thing that I really like about the show is how it takes a lot of those typical, you know, plot lines or storylines, you know, those types of stories that you see in a lot of TV shows, and it kind of makes you think the episode is going to go one way, and then it just completely goes the opposite direction. I actually really love that. A lot of times in the episodes in the show, I thought, you know, okay, they're gonna start this story arc. Okay, you know, I knew how it was gonna play out. I was expecting the story beats. And then it just completely went another way, and then just in a different story, but not in a very forced or a way that took me out and just made me go, whoa, no, this is wrong. But anyway, I believe I just talked long enough about this show. It's a show that I would definitely recommend. It's all 6 episodes long, season 1. The episodes are like 22 to 23 minutes, I believe, each one. So really, it doesn't take long at all just to, you know, check it out. Just watch at least one episode. They don't have an overarching story in the season, so you can actually start wherever you want to. But let's face it, start at episode 1. You know, you're not a psychopath. Just, you know, start at episode 1, because why wouldn't you? But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been my review of the Derry Girls. Check it out if you have the time. And let me know in the comment section if you watch the show what you thought about it, or if you are interested in this conflict, what your opinion on is on a show being set in this time. Anyway, I think that's all. Thank you guys so much again for watching this, and I hope to talk